Welcome to the Heart of Real Estate podcast with Mike McFarland and Steven Salinas with the Mortgage Mike Group. On the podcast, Mike and Steven discuss with top producing real estate agents what makes them successful, unique, and purpose-filled. Each episode holds a key to unlocking a door to financial freedom. Hey guys.
Hey folks.
Welcome back to the Heart of Real Estate podcast. I am Steven Salinas, one of the podcast hosts here. I got my partner here, Mike McFarland.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Mike, tell us what is this podcast about today?
Yeah.
If I was a new listener listening for the very first time, why should I continue to listen to all 30 minutes of this podcast?
Yeah, because I think this podcast is all about getting back to the basics.
Okay. Yeah. Getting back to the basics.
Getting back to the basics. Like what got you where you were or where you are is going to be what gets you where you're going again. Right?
Great. So,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this is your first time, welcome. If you're a monthly listener, so great to have you back.
Yes.
Do us a favor.
Weekly listener.
Yeah. If you're a weekly listener, this comes out every Friday.
Right.
Every Friday, rain or shine. So tune in, subscribe, just so you don't miss any episodes. Share with anybody that you know that wants to grow in their real estate career. Mike, why don't we introduce our guest? Why don't we just dive right in?
For sure. We have a very special guest today. We have Clint,
yes,
Clint Nabors with the Ellis-Nabors Team. I have personally known Clint for many years. In fact, he and I both kind of got back into this aspect of real estate almost at the same time. And that was 12 years ago, 15. I'm not even sure how long ago it was. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time
13
ago.
years ago.
Wow.
I don't know. So Clint, welcome to the Heart of Real Estate
Welcome
podcast.
to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and I was thinking about, I was like, when did Mike and I first, start working together? And really it was more hanging out, kayak fishing. And I started thinking about our
Port O'Connor
and all the things that we've done. So we go back a long way with a lot of
I love it. So, I bet you wish you could get back to the basics of doing that.
Would love those basics right now.
Get back to doing that, doing a little bit more.
Yeah. We need to figure that out.
Well, Clint, absolutely. Thanks for coming, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate you just as a friend, and that we can just bounce ideas off of each other. This podcast is called the Heart of Real Estate Podcast because we believe you have a huge heart for your business, and your clients can see it in the way that you do business. Really, for those listening today, tell us about your experience. Tell us about kind of like your career. Going in different positions. How are you getting back to, the basics of, doing
give us a little bit of your journey.
Yeah. Tell us about your journey.
So it's been quite a ride. I graduated from Baylor University in 2000 with a degree in real estate. So I've always been in real estate, got licensed in 99. So I've been licensed now for about 24 years, and all I've ever done is residential real estate. I did try, new homes. I worked for a top builder here in Houston for a while and decided, I think I want to have a little more control over my schedule. And then we started having kids. So that was back in 02, 03. And, the residential side's always really just kind of pulled me in. And I like that it's a business that you can grow with. It has no ceiling. It has no floor, just like, any self-employed job.
Right.
I always like the no ceiling part of it. It gives us a lot of opportunity. But I think the residential side I like because I like helping people with the biggest investment of their lives for most people. And it kind of changes. I don't feel like I'm in just a 9-to-5 job. We do the same thing over and over and over. My clients change every few months. So it's almost like every client is a new job, and it's a new opportunity, and it's a new relationship. And, I think that adds more excitement for me. So some people I'll be helping with their first home, and maybe we're looking at a couple $100,000. And then I'll have people looking for maybe a ranch or a ranchette, and we're looking at $2, $3, $4 million. So just the variety of it is what's always kept me in the business. Now, a few years ago, I started doing some coaching So I built the team. I guess when you and I first met, that was
probably, you were starting it in. Yeah,
I think the team was starting back in 2010.
That would be about right.
We were working in the same office together at the time, and you were a preferred lender. That's how we started our relationship. And we just decided to do the team thing. That was my father-in-law, Mark Ellis. Yeah. He's the Ellis part of the Ellis-Nabors team. And then my wife joined us, my mother-in-law, my mom, my sister-in-law. So it's like a family team. It's totally a big family team.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we've grown. We've gotten bigger. We've gotten a little bit smaller. So you kind of try different things, see what's going to work. And, different markets call for different things. We do have about 12 people on our team right now. Okay. And I would say about half are assistants and half are in sales roles. And we did 59.5 million in sales last year. So almost $60 million. In a tough
market.
It was kind of a tough year.
Yeah, right? Crazy year.
It's not an easy year.
First part of the year started out pretty good, and then it did kind of start to die off as the rates started going up and the market did start to shift on us. So we're very proud to be a $60 million team in that market. And then, I was coming out of a management role as well. So I'd actually been asked to manage the office with Better Homes and Gardens. So I'm at Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Green, in the Cypress office. And I thought, I have some coaching experience. I've always been intrigued by the management side of things.
Let me try that.
Let me try it. Let's see, see what happens and see if this is where I want to finish my career. Because I still have probably 20 years at least left. And as a lot of realtors work till they're 90, so I have a lot more years.
Right. There's no real
45 more years.
Right? Profile photo never changes.
We'll always be licensed. We'll always do a few deals, right? But I was asked to manage that office, and we had an opening, and I said, I want to try it. I want to see if this is where I want to go for the next 20 years. And I was thinking maybe going into corporate roles or something, and let's just get a feel for it, see if that's where my heart is. And my heart is in helping people. It's in coaching, really helping people grow their businesses. So I did that. Wasn't quite what I was looking for. So we still had the team, and it was still doing well, and I was still very involved in that. But I felt like I was living a couple different lives. And so I had my managing job, I had my team job, and then I had a family. And our daughter, we have 3 kids. So we have a 20-year-old at college, Claire. My son Winston is 16 in high school, and then we adopted 5 years ago. So we have Ava Kate. So I'm living all these different lives at home. We're doing band, and we're doing college stuff, and we're doing the preschool thing.
You're right
so it just got to be where I didn't have enough hours in the day. And I'm coaching people and telling people how to be more efficient with their time and how to say no to things. And I was just saying yes and taking more things on. So did make this shift, a transition. Amy and I, my wife, we decided, I guess it's been almost a year and a half now. Hey, something's got to give. If we're going to keep doing the ministry things, and we'll talk more about that, and doing our passions in our free time, then we have to have more time to have free time. Yeah. And when you're running a couple different businesses and trying to do all that, it wasn't working. So I wasn't getting my tank filled, and it just got to a point where I said, you know what? I'm going to go back into sales. I want to do a little bit of coaching, whether it be with the company or on the side. So we came up with this hybrid thing at the company where I was actually the coach for the Cypress office for the last about 14 months. Okay. And that was a good fit. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And then now the economy changes, and the office needs change, and budgets change, and all these things. And I'm moved into a new shift, which is just back to sales and maybe like a couple coaching clients on the side with, private coaching. So, so it's back to the basics.
Right. So you're back to where you started, and
I am, as of the end of this month, I will be completely back to where I started. So just, running the team and being a realtor and back into just sales, and no management responsibilities at all. No coaching, no corporate position tied into that.
Right. So, well, it's good. You said, I like what you said, drawing the correlation between saying yes to everything, right? Instead of like strategically saying no. Right. And so finding that was just pulling you too far away from what you really like doing and what fills you up. So that's good, man. I think all of us can get really lost in the yeses and forget that, man, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Well, and every
right
time you
places.
say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Right.
So is it to church? Is it to the family? Is it, who are you saying no to? And I think we talked about that at lunch a couple weeks ago. It's hard to say no because you want to be everything for everyone.
Yeah, it is.
But if you're not giving your best to everyone, then it's really not helpful to anyone at the end of the day.
Right.
I think there's also like a scarcity of leaders, and like, you being a leader, people are going to naturally want to pull you into like management.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And pulling you into like overseeing people and helping
you did
them,
such a great job
coaching them.
You're so good at this.
You're like, let me pull you up here.
Yeah.
Get you out of what you're good at, and lead people doing that. But I love that you realized, okay, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it the right way. Right. What are you doing right now? Like today, what are the things that you're looking at when we say getting back to the basics? What goes into that? Yeah. And I'm sure now you have all this different like history and testimony to draw from, and this wisdom you built. How are you looking at things now? What are you doing now?
So, there's reading books is a big thing of mine. And I started that about 4 years ago. The goal was read a book a week. And I've been doing that successfully. Now, when I say read, I use that term loosely. Listen to or read a book.
Listening, reading,
learn.
All of them count.
So I listen to probably 48 books a year.
Okay.
I'll read maybe 4 and, actual read it. But I've been keeping up with that, and it really helps me grow and, learn some of those leadership things, learn different things that will keep me on track. My Bible, keeping me grounded, doing prayer time, things like that. So kind of going to the structured day, I think that's where you have to have your quiet time in the morning. You have to be grounded. Yes. Exercise. Now I had gotten out of the exercise thing. That was a really big one of getting back into the old habits I need to be into. If your exercise isn't there, the body's not right, the mind's not right, the endorphins aren't right, and you start to feel it, and you're getting drugged down, and you're tired, and all these things. So that was one thing of saying no, is I didn't have time for that. I didn't have time to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have
time. No to you.
So I was saying no to myself. Yeah. And now I'm back into exercising and eating well, and watching what you drink, and just watch what you put in your body and making better choices. So I think that's a big part of it. And then it's setting those morning routines and doing affirmations and really, writing out, what am I going to do today? What do I need to achieve today? What do we need to achieve tomorrow? Schedule everything. It's time blocking. Yeah. That's, getting back to the basic. It's really looking at your calendar and controlling your time like a budget. I think it was when we were doing the budgeting stuff. What is the money makeover where you eat rice and beans and the whole thing? Yeah. Is that Dave Ramsey?
I think yes.
So we did that. Right. We did that years ago, and I remember if he said if you don't put a task to the dollar will find something to do. It'll spend itself, right? It's like budgeting.
So true.
What we found is with your money and your budget, if you don't assign it a task, it's going to disappear.
Right.
With your time, if you don't assign it a task, it's going to disappear. And so I've really gotten back into budgeting my time. And that's how I'm looking at it now is, everything gets written down, everything gets scheduled. And if it is something that's not in the schedule, then it goes through kind of a funnel. And we've talked about some of the books that I've read in the past. And there's one called Procrastinate on Purpose. So Rory Vaden, I recommend every agent needs to read this book. It's amazing. And you take every activity and you put it in the funnel and you say, okay, does this need to be done right now? And can I automate it? Can I eliminate it? Can I delegate it? So whatever that task is, if it can't be automated, eliminated, delegated, do I need to do it right this second? If I don't need to do it now, you procrastinate it on purpose. You push it back. Then it goes back to the funnel later. It pops back up. And then at some point, you're going to say, I have to do this and I have to do it now. Well, that's when I'm doing that task. Got it. And it'll have a spot in my calendar when it becomes necessary to do it immediately. So, and
you keep track of it. It's still there. It's there. It's just like, it hadn't reached priority at this moment.
Correct.
So it's okay. I don't have to do it.
And, being in sales, we have to have prospecting time. We have to have our connection time. I don't like calling it prospecting. I think that has a negative connotation to a lot of salespeople.
Right.
You don't want to tell your sphere,
prospecting.
Prospecting. hey,
like, I thought you were just
I'm mining my database
right
now.
I just want us to hang out and catch up.
I thought you cared about me, and I do. So it's changing your words, it's changing your mindset with those items, and
we definitely have
so real.
We had to do that for our our weekly calls. We have calls that we make on Mondays, and we changed it to Monday encouragement. So we realized, okay, well, we start our day this way. We've got something to give and something to, encourage somebody with. So when we call on Mondays to check in with people, we're going to say like, hey, how are you doing? How can we support you? How can we lift you up, encourage you?
Maybe here's something
give you an affirmation
this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So you really do have to, you kind of have to change the name of things and
it's intentionality.
Intentionality. Exactly.
Well, it's interesting how kind of the whole world of sales doesn't operate with that mindset. It operates with the idea of prospecting, mining,
to close people,
right? Like all of these words that really are like
right.
barriers to relationship.
Correct.
Right.
So I call it my relationship building time.
That's so great, man.
And that's really what it is. It's my time it's time to reconnect with people. Yeah. Sometimes I'm reconnecting. Sometimes I'm warming up, cold relationships that, we haven't talked in a while. Yeah. And sometimes the relationships are warm. You do talk a lot and you want to continue that and you want to be top of mind. And I'm never asking people for their business. You know, there's a barrier that goes up. There's a wall that goes up. If I came to you and said, hey, Mike, when are you going to sell your house? Yeah. Then you're going to like, whoa, for me. Yeah. And it's another deal and all that. Yeah. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, how can I help you? How can I serve you? How can we be friends? Let's go hang out if we want to grab a drink or go kayak fishing or whatever it is. And it's the relationship. And I want to be with people that I like, and people want to work with me if they know, like, and trust me. And I really just want to build that relationship. And then if you happen to have a friend that is thinking about buying or selling, I'm hoping that I'm top of mind enough and that you trust me enough that you can refer them to me, and then I can offer them great service. Right on. And eventually my friends will need the service as well. And then I hope they refer themselves to me.
Right on. You were along those lines. I think you were saying refreshing the relationship, or warming it back up. You had mentioned was it Ninja Selling, the 8x8?
Yeah, the 8 and 8.
Yeah, 8 and 8. Tell us about that.
So that one you can use if you haven't read Ninja Selling. I don't know why, but I just read this like a few months ago, and I think I had lunch with you guys.
Yeah, you did. I'm like super excited.
I'm not even finished with it yet.
You had printouts and everything,
and I was very excited about it, and I still am. And I'm actually reading the hard copy of it now and taking notes.
Great.
Cool. But there's an 8 and 8, and they have a process that they go through. That's what I like about their system is, I've been part of the Buffini system for many, many years. So Brian Buffini, I have a 1-to-1 coach, and I've been with him for about 6 years, and I work the Buffini system pretty well. The Ninja Selling, I feel like it's Buffini system with like processes. It's taking it to the next level. That's how I would describe it. So it's like, okay, here's Buffini, but here's what to say. Here's what you actually need to do. And it's taking everything to level up. Well, the 8 and 8 is actually just 8 contacts that you would make with someone. So if it was a rewarming of a relationship, it's going to start with maybe a handwritten note. Yeah. And you're just kind of reaching back out. Hey, it was great seeing you at HEB yesterday, or playing golf, or we saw you at the kids' sports event, whatever. And then you have intentionality for the next 7 weeks. So it's 8 weeks total of some kind of contact. So you would go 8 weeks in a row. Yeah. The book has examples of where, like, the next week, it was somebody new that he had met, and he sent like a map of the community. Well, we don't have like hard maps anymore, paper maps. Well, it's kind of cool. Like, you're not gonna look at your phone and see the whole area. So it'd be neat as a new resident to actually look at a map and say, oh, this is how the city's set up, and here's where things are. And then you think it's in a cookbook for how to cook at 5,000 feet in Denver area. And so it's just things that are little like that. And then just follow up. So it would be 8 weeks of intentional, something that's different, something of value to reach out to people. Yeah. And then week 7 was a phone call. And it's just kind of connecting at the verbal level. So there's face to face, and there's voice to voice, and then you've got like text and things like that, and everything kind of builds. So a handwritten note has a little bit of power, a phone call has more power, and then a face-to-face has the most power, because now we have body language and you have the actual connection of people. So that 8th meeting would be going to dinner or going to lunch or going to coffee or something. And so you're building trust through this whole time, and you're building relationship. And what's interesting is after 8 weeks, this person either really knows you well again, and you're caught up on life, and now you're part of this monthly process of connecting at some level.
Right on.
Or they didn't know you and they feel like they've known you forever.
Right.
So so it's kind of something that I thought it was a great way to have intentionality with the process.
It fits so great with Buffini, because Buffini is the long-term relationship play. Correct. Right. But you also you can like take this piece, this 8-week, I'm going to reconnect so that I can get them re-engaged in that monthly follow-up. That's like, that's awesome.
I like that it's not, there's nothing you can essentially automate about that. Like, it's really, you have to, you have to talk. Like,
the only thing that's automated is every week I have to do this.
Yeah. Like, it's just the reminders, but at the end of the day, there's no new technology or new way to gain business that's better than that.
Right. And it's time. So, when I'm coaching newer agents, I'm coaching my team, and I'm coaching myself, it's a constant reminder of,
I need to do this.
If you do a good job for someone and they're happy with the service, then you get a paycheck, right? Maybe you get a good review. If you do a good job for someone and then you follow up with them occasionally, then you get a repeat client. Out of that, they'll probably call you again and use you again. If you do a good job, you follow up, and you show that you care, and that last piece of showing that you care is what's critical to building the relationship. That's where you start to get referrals. So my coach, he always says, "How do you spell care?"
CARE.
TIME.
Aha.
So that's the key. It's pouring that time into people. And that's what the 8 and 8 does, is you're pouring time, which is very valuable. It's our most valuable asset, I think. You're pouring that into people, and then it's showing that you care. You're building that relationship at a deeper level. And then now you can start building on your referral system and having your raving fans and having your advocates and your cheerleaders that are out there for you.
Where do you block that? Like, where is that blocked on your calendar? Is there a day? Is there a time?
It's daily.
There days? So when you look at your calendar, you're like, okay, I'm on. Tell us about that. What does that look like?
So every morning I like to block out an hour and a half, and it depends on my schedule for the week. But typically I want to have at least an hour and a half if I can every day. And you may have to play with it. Each person needs to play with what time of day works for them and works for their clients, because everyone's sphere is a little different. And you'll have certain people that you'll start to take notes, and you'll realize, hey, I can only call them at 3 o'clock, and I can only call this one at 9 o'clock, and don't ever call them before 8 because they're sleeping till.
Right. Or they have children and you're waking them up.
I woke somebody up the other day. I didn't realize it was like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm just, I've been going for 3 hours.
Right.
I got up early and worked out, and I'm going, and then I called them, and then I could tell I woke up right. And it was a current client, and we were talking about a closing for the next day. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But you don't think about that sometimes. You get going. So you do have to, that's where it's good to schedule.
The sun's out, right? I've been awake. It's sun's out now. Everybody's awake.
Yeah. I'm already hours into this thing.
People don't mind calling me at 7:30.
Right. I know, exactly. Or you get those texts as a realtor at 2 o'clock in the morning, and
go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that you block it out. And then what I always say, if you can't do it at that time, because let's say a closing came up, or a client needs to look at a house, or, there's something that is filling that time that is important or urgent, then I say, move it, don't remove it.
Got it.
So actually slide it in your digital calendar to 3 o'clock. Say, you know what, I've got a little time here, or today is just really bad, I can't do it. So I'm going to double up tomorrow. Or I'm going to move half of it to tomorrow and half of it to the next day. So I'll do 2 hours tomorrow and 2 hours the next day. But if you get in the habit of removing it, it never gets done.
Well, and the number one thing you do is that activity.
So
not everything.
80% of our income comes from our relationship building time.
Right. Exactly.
And it should take 20% of your week.
Right.
15
and
to 20%
yet
of your time.
we kick it. We have a tendency to kick that down the road because
We get caught up in the whirlwind.
Priority.
Yep. I call them the whirlwind activities.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff you have to get done, which is really where the delegation and automation comes in. If you can learn to delegate things, as a realtor, hire an assistant.
Yeah.
Have someone take things off your plate, take those $25 an hour things off your plate so you can focus on the $300 an hour activities.
Yeah.
And it's, not everybody can do that. And you can't do it right away. You can't be a brand new agent and start paying somebody. But there is a point where you kind of start hitting a plateau.
Yeah.
And then you go ahead and make that change. I always share the story that when I first hired a part-time assistant and got some help and put systems into place, I went from $7 million a year in production, which is where I capped out by myself. And that was back when houses were about probably $200,000 on average, maybe a little less. And when we hired someone 20 hours a week and I got some help and put systems in place, I did $21 million the next year. Tripled my business.
Worth every
and it cost
penny.
Me $12 an hour, 20 hours a week at that time. Now today it's going to be more like $17 or $18 an hour probably.
And it's still worth it.
But still, it's, and prices are higher. You're making more. So, don't be afraid to hire that help and don't wait like I did. Don't wait 10 years.
Yeah. I get it. When you start to hit that plateau, that's the indicator. It's time actually before the plateau. But somebody needs to tell you, hey, you're tapping out.
And that's where having a good coach or a mentor could come in and help with that. And what you do with that extra time that you free up, I mean, that's up to you. But my encouragement is free up time so you can go do those prospecting type activities or have a life. A lot of realtors don't have a life right now. Lenders, they're so busy doing all the activities by themselves that they're not seeing their family. I mean, I remember with my little ones, I don't really remember seeing my kids.
Yeah.
I was so busy getting my business going and working it by myself all those years and working those 90-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And I don't recall my kids being babies.
Yeah.
And when I adopted, this was many years later, I was almost 40 when we adopted. I was 25 when I had my first kid. So there's been this whole gap and my business is in a whole different place. And I said, I'm going to be here for this. I feel bad for my older kids. It's like, sorry, kids, wasn't here for you. But therapy will fix that. Right. It's fine. So now we have the little one. I was very much a part of her daily life and got to enjoy having a baby. And I didn't get to experience that the first go around. So,
well, that's a good segue into purpose, right? And really the idea of workplace as a mission or finding purpose in your work. What does that look like for you? So
I think the biggest thing is you have to figure out what your why is. There's books about it. And I know it's kind of cliche. We talk about that.
It's a hard question to answer, by the way.
It is very hard.
It's a very hard question to answer.
But you do have to figure out what drives you, what makes you want to get out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed, what makes you make that call when you don't feel like making the call. And that is different for every person. For me, I think it's helping other people. It's supporting my family. It's making sure my kids don't have to, have student loans when they get out of college. It's vacations. So there's a lot of things that they're, I would say, selfish desires and selfish goals that I have. And that drives me a little bit. But the things that really will drive me, I would say, outside of my kids and my wife, are missions. And that's helping people that can't help themselves.
Yeah.
And knowing that we do have the ability to make money, and God has provided opportunity for us, and He's blessed us with extra. That was one reason we adopted. We did foster care and adoption, and it's why we go to Africa and we work with orphans in Zambia. It's why I go down to South America and Central America and Guatemala and doing stove building and different things. So we're always looking at, okay, what can I do? And part of that is it's fun for me to explore other cultures and other countries.
Yeah.
But a big part of it is we're helping someone that would not have had this had we not stepped in and stepped out of our comfort zone to do that. So I see those babies' faces. We have those pictures. I have it on my phone, and I can look at them when I start getting in my own head, when I start getting down, when I start getting lazy, when I get complacent, when I get sloth. Then I'll say, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This isn't about me. This is about furthering God's kingdom. This is about spreading the gospel. This is about helping and some of it survival. for these people.
Right.
So I think it's having that mission purpose. It's having that God purpose. It's how can I be the hands and feet of Christ, and not just say I'm a good Christian and tithe and give money and then give a little bit of time. I really want to make a difference, and I want God to call me to things, and I want the Holy Spirit to fill me and wake me up to these things. Open my eyes to some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that you have like for your why, you have a place where you can go and just look, and there's something to it. I think also for men too, like, seeing like, the people that you're helping and supporting, like remembering your why is so important. Even on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, you've got to have it. You've got to have it somewhere to where you can just remind yourself, like, hey, this isn't about me.
And in our work, and because our work can be mentally challenging, right? Because we run up against the fear of rejection. I mean, the places where we put ourselves out, we can let our mind just go crazy sometimes, or at least mine. Just
all we're human,
right? Like it just happens.
It's our nature.
But they're like, oh man, it really, I know I need to do this. But it's like the vision board, but it's a mission board, right? I mean,
and your vision board could have that's
a
piece of it,
right?
Putting the missions in the little corner of it.
Yeah.
But I think vision boards are good.
Right on.
And that's something that
it's right in front of you.
Lenders are always getting realtors together to do
vision boarding.
Boards.
Right. Yeah.
But they do have a purpose.
I like the mission boarding idea a lot.
But the mission boarding would be good.
Let's really dig deep, right?
Yeah.
Because in the end, if you're working for the kingdom, then that really is it, right? Because that's the byproduct of the provision that's been provided.
Yeah. So the hard part with this is we get busy, and you just mentioned it, and then we forget what our why is. Sometimes we forget why we are doing things, and then we get caught up in the activities again, and then we don't sit and we're not quiet, and we're not listening to the Spirit, and that's something I've been guilty of time and time and time again.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I've done missions, I've done these things. I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. I screw up a lot, and I fall into that trap like anybody else. And it's having someone like my wife that can be aware of it and hold me accountable to it and remind me that, hey, you're working too hard. You're working too much. You're not spending enough time with your family. You're not doing your why. You're not spending the time in your quiet time, and you're not doing your missions and all the things that fill you up. And, why are you sad today? I think that was like yesterday. I had a really rough day at work, and, it's like everything that can go wrong went wrong. It happens to all of us. I got home and Amy's like, why are you sad? What's wrong? And I was like, I don't want to talk about it. And, it's
your wife is not going to be
it's not going to work. Right. And so you kind of want to just say, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to push away. And then you just want to keep doing those things you're doing. And instead it's like, okay, I need to make some changes. And I need to get neutral. So that's kind of one of the things that there's a book I'm reading right now. It talks about getting neutral. And I think that's great because we can't always be fake happy. Right. The power of positive thinking can only get you so far.
Right.
And getting to a neutral place, I think, is important. And that's where, being able to think about things logically and clearly and say, okay, this is the situation I'm in. Is this really a big deal? No, it's not. Right. Or, people get in all kinds of situations.
Just to quiet your mind long enough just to let the clutter just settle down.
Right.
Right. You mentioned the power of positive thinking. I literally am reading. I've got it's right over here. It's 1960s edition. It's like handed down through my family. It's crazy. I'm reading it now. I've never read it. I don't think anybody's read it.
So I have an old edition as well.
And apparently he just said,
well, but
sometimes
in the midst of it, what he says is that you have in the section where he says, talk about quieting your mind. He's like, you have to find that space of just, getting your mind quiet for 15 minutes so that you can hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's where you really start to think, okay, what's important?
Yeah.
And what really you have to slow down so you can speed up.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be able to take the time to write out what needs to be done and tackle, and I could list off 50 books we can talk about of what you need to do. But if you don't take the time to read them and you don't take the time to implement them, put them into action, then none of that does any good.
Yeah.
And, don't go and try to read a bunch of books and change everything at once. Read one book this next month, challenge yourself to do that if you don't already, and say, I'm going to try to find 3 nuggets. What are 3 little bitty changes that I can make this month?
Right
and then try to find 1 or 2, 3 changes the next month. And over time, the way you do everything, the way you think everything has been completely changed, and you're a different person.
Yeah, you look back
4 years later.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
As we kind of wrap things up, Clint, what is one thing if you say that, like maybe speaking to your team, or maybe the person that's listening that's really looking for just a nugget of wisdom that you could share, just like probably one of the most important things you can do in this business, what would you feel like? There's a lot of things, but what would you, if you can try, what's the one thing that you would share just to implement today that would just be a catalyst for change for them?
I mean, there's the, perseverance, everyone talks about just keep plugging through and working hard and all that. And I think that's super important. But what I am driving home to myself and to my team, I would say the 3 pillars of success. It's remembering what the 3 pillars of success are, and I, you said one thing, and that's kind of one thing.
That's
3 things.
3 right? I want to know the 3 pillars.
Yeah.
So the first one is, are we working the right activities? So if you're struggling right now, if your pipeline's not full, if you're like, man, this is really harder than I thought it was going to be, and I want to be more successful, ask yourself the question: am I working the right activities? Okay. And then the second question you're going to ask yourself is, am I working those activities with excellence? So are you halfway doing them, or are you going all in on them? Are you doing pop buys? Or are you doing drop buys? So like for people that do pop buys, it's where you kind of have a gift and you give it to a client, and something you would stop by, say hi. There's that whole law of reciprocity. So a pop buy is you actually have a conversation. It's face to face. A drop buy is you throw it on their porch and then you run as fast as you can, and then you text them and be like, yo, I just dropped something off at your it defeats half the purpose of the post.
Right.
So that's not doing with excellence.
Right.
So doing it with excellence would be going the extra mile. It would be actually having that face to face. It would be showing that you care, giving more time to people. And then the third thing, if you've done all of that and you're still struggling, then you need to ask yourself, am I working with the right people?
Okay.
So that's where sphere change could come in. Maybe you need to change your sphere. Maybe you need to change who you're hanging out with, things like that. Now, the key word in that whole thing, if you notice, I said working. You have to work your business. You can't just wish upon things to happen for your business to be successful.
Yeah.
Wow. That was so much better than I could have.
Right on.
I could have imagined.
Drop the mic on that.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I think those are great things to reflect on. I mean, we could all do that exercise after this, and just remind ourselves, what's going to move the needle.
Right.
But man, I loved it. I love it.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And hopefully we can get you maybe 5 more listeners this week.
Right on. Exactly.
Yes. If you like
and subscribe to this.
If you like what you're hearing,
share it.
From Clint, we're going to put all of Clint's info below so you can reach out to him to continue the conversation. Our tagline for this podcast is bringing people together. So we're bringing people together for the right purpose, to do things with heart and to make a difference. So thanks so much for listening, guys. We will see you next time on the Heart of Real Estate podcast.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Heart of Real Estate podcast. If you found this episode thought-provoking and helpful, do us a favor and share it with 2 of your friends. Also, feel free to leave any comments or reviews. And if you want to learn more about the Mortgage Mike Group, reach out. We'd love to connect.